joining us here today. Come on over, Sheriff. I'm here today to talk about an investment in this community and in improving public safety that I think can really be a game changer for law enforcement. Several years ago, when I was first elected as Attorney General, I made a budget presentation in Santa Fe about the importance in investing in strategic technology that could enhance the impact of frontline law enforcement personnel, and specifically technology that would improve the ability of sheriff's departments and police departments around the state to leverage new forensic developments to try and track crime guns in the state of New Mexico. Unfortunately, the appropriators in Santa Fe did not make that investment, but we were happy to have the support of Senator Martin Heinrich, who very quickly worked with our office to include this in the federal budget. And the result of that is the deployment of a NIBIN machine, which is a specialized piece of technology that helps to track the forensic characteristics of shell casings that are recovered at crime scenes. The reason it is so important is that on average, crime guns that are recovered by police departments around the country, including the crime guns that have so far been recovered in the state of New Mexico, are used on average 4 different times in 4 different shootings before they are actually taken into police custody. And what that means is that a lot of the guns that are used in street level crimes are passed around in criminal organizations and in criminal groups. They may be used in a drive-by shooting one day, in an armed robbery the next, shooting at or from a motor vehicle at a different time, and then may end up being associated with a homicide. And only by understanding the patterns of crime guns and their movement through society, their movement through gangs and criminal organizations, are we able to try and get ahead of the epidemic of gun violence that we have not only in this country but in this state. This is the first time that we have deployed these specialized machines into every corner of the state. So we have machines that have been deployed in Farmington, in Gallup. There were existing machines in Albuquerque. There are now machines operating in Roswell, and we're here today to announce a machine that has been installed here in Doña County in a partnership with Sheriff Kim Stewart and her team. We take all of the data from the casings that are recovered and the crime guns themselves that are test fired, and we feed that into a unified stream of data that is shared with a special unit in the New Mexico Department of Justice that is the first statewide crime gun intelligence center in the United States. There are a lot of bigger cities and metropolitan police departments that have intelligence centers, but this New Mexico is the first to create a statewide crime gun information center. And the reason that's so important is that what we've seen, even in the 60 or so days that we've deployed this technology, is that a lot of these guns and weapons move from one community to the next. There may be a shooting that occurs in Deming that's actually connected to a crime gun that's recovered in Las Cruces. We may find shell casings in Silver City that are connected to something happening in TRC. And if we operate in those silos, we'll never be able to make those connections. In the last 60 or so days, we have already distributed, I think, about 10 leads based on data from recovered crime guns and shell casings, including the lead right here in Doña County. Based on the experience of crime gun intelligence centers around the country, we expect those leads to enable frontline personnel, patrolmen on the street, homicide detectives, violent crime detectives to be able to more effectively and efficiently solve these crimes, present stronger cases to the district attorney's office, and ultimately hold those accountable who are engaged in violent crime in our community and remove them from the community. This is a smart investment in proven technology and relies on the ongoing cooperation of police departments and sheriff's departments. So a big reason for my being here today is to not only let this community know about this new resource, but to also encourage every surrounding law enforcement agency, from the Las Cruces Police Department to neighboring sheriff's departments to smaller communities who don't have this technical resource. The design of this program was intentionally geared towards a regional model. In other words, this is a machine that is housed here at the Doña County Sheriff's Office, but it is not their machine alone. It is a regional resource. It is intended to be something that's a force multiplier for law enforcement agencies around this community and around the state. If we are effective in gathering up all the shell casings and test firing all the guns that are recovered in every community within 100 miles of this location, we are going to have a profound impact on developing real-time leads to deliver to frontline personnel so we ultimately can build safer communities. So I'm incredibly proud of the investment. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we were able to do, and none of it would have been possible without Sheriff Stewart and her incredible team. And so I'm pleased to be joined with her today and ask her to offer her thoughts and comments on what she thinks this new technology might achieve in this community. Sheriff.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for inviting me today and for coming to visit. And I do want to give a shout out to Senator Heinrich. This started in my lifetime a few years ago. So here we are 60 days in to this opportunity to use this technology. And sometimes I know the public gets very impatient about why don't things happen faster. I guarantee you this was fast, but in our world, in your world, it might seem very slow. It was a wonderful thing when I was told that a few months ago we were 9 weeks away from going online. I was like ready to party because that's fantastic, 9 weeks. But here's the thing. It is, as the Attorney General says, it's a force multiplier. We are not going to win the war of crime or push crime back or whatever it is we do without collaboration. We are not going to do it without working together. And it's this kind of opportunity, I think, that helps New Mexican agencies really understand the value of it and really embrace the fact that together we truly can do amazing things. We're at trial right now. A year ago there was a mass shooting and one of those suspects is on trial right now. Imagine if this had been up and running. All those rounds that were collected at that particular park, at that particular location, we could have had a response on those guns very, very quickly, within days. So I just can't thank him enough. I can't thank Senator Heinrich enough, and certainly my team who embraced it rapidly and quickly and really enjoy the fact that if they find rounds, we might find a gun that goes with it. And be aware, this is a national database. So when you say, how can we possibly marry a round to a single gun? It's a national database through ATF. So that's it for my comments. I just can't be thankful enough.
So with that, happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions? Here we go.
Algernon Damassa, Albuquerque Journal.
Yep.
You talked a little bit about how useful this technology is for gathering data that can identify weapons and hold people accountable when they commit crimes with guns. I'm wondering if this technology also allows the kind of data that helps sort of identify the way weapons move. There's, a lot of that, especially with our juvenile crime situation in this county. And I'm wondering if this technology is helpful in terms of identifying how weapons are moving and actually preventing incidents from happening.
So that's a great question. It's the primary objective is, as I said, to deliver real-time intelligence to frontline law enforcement personnel so that they can follow that lead and hopefully apprehend a suspect. But the secondary objective is, as you stated, trying to understand a pattern of movement of crime guns and trafficking. And we, in the early phases of this program, will not have enough data available to us yet. But as the program matures and as we get more buy-in from communities, we will then be able to start seeing how trafficked weapons are moving from one community to the next. And then once we overlay that data with other crime information and intelligence that we have, we'll be able to associate the movement of those guns with specific organizations. And so that ultimately will be an opportunity for us to disrupt the flow of illegal weapons through communities and get in front of it. I think one of the other points that I'd like to make, and this is particularly important for the deputies and members of law enforcement, to really leverage the technology, there has to be both buy-in from smaller departments and other departments that don't have direct access to the machine. There has to be a commitment to do the training, but culturally there is a shift that's required in the way people and officers who are under tremendous strain, who have resource issues, and are asked often to do way more than is physically possible. One of the shifts that we've seen, and we saw it certainly in the Albuquerque experience, is we would get calls in the middle of the night for the police department to respond to a location in response to shots fired. Maybe a shot spotter alerted to a location, or there was a report from the public. A police officer would be dispatched to the scene. They would shine a light. They would look for a victim. They would look for a witness. They would look for impact of rounds. If they didn't see anything, they would clear that call and move on to something else. The most important thing and the hardest thing, frankly, for us at the patrol level is to get every deputy and every patrolman to understand that we need them to get out of the vehicle and take extra time to look for those casings if they don't already do that. And the reason is there has been a shift in the understanding of the dynamics of crime, where you're not just looking for shell casings at the park because somebody discharged a weapon at the park in the middle of the night. You could actually be stepping over the brass that could solve a homicide that may have occurred 2 weeks before, or a drive-by shooting that may occur 2 weeks from now. And it's that reorientation in the value of recovering that forensic evidence that is critically important for us to get everyone on the front line of this problem to understand. The other thing is that there are some parallels to the rape kit backlog. That's a problem that we had to address in this state, and we're still working through. I would imagine, we don't have the resources yet, but I would imagine that there are in evidence right now casings that are associated with unsolved crimes, casings that have been collected, with respect to a certain search warrant, and they're sitting in shelves and they're sitting in boxes. One of the things we're going to want to do is go through the backlog of casings and the backlog of recovered firearms and test all of those things. I believe that if we did that, and we did it in a comprehensive and effective way, we very likely will be able to solve unsolved prior violent crimes, homicides, and things of that nature, because we don't know right now if there's brass that's connected to an unsolved murder in Deming that's sitting in some police department right now, and that they really could hold the key to doing that. So it's both something we have to apply retrospectively and also reorient the culture of policing around to really leverage the technology.
Hi, my name is Miguel with KVIA. So I have a question on nibbing. A nibbing trailer was brought in to LCPD and DASO a couple of years back. What kind of success did the department see in solving cases from that trailer? And I do have a backup question. So did the clearance rate on solving shootings and homicides improve in Las Cruces following the Nibbins introduction?
So we're here to talk about the newly installed NIBIN machine here at the Sheriff's Department. I'd refer you to probably the Las Cruces Police Department if they were using a mobile piece of technology and to see what impact it may have had. The key for us is for everyone to understand that this is not a temporary technological deployment or a mobile deployment. This is a full-time installed piece of technology that is both supported by ongoing software updates and technological and hardware updates, but also trained personnel. A big part of what we have to do make sure that we have the right kind of personnel that's engaged in analyzing the recovered firearms and the recovered brass.
Mario Lopez, K-Fox. Elaborate a little bit on the staffing. Are you fully staffed? And then second part is, what kind of training do you guys need?
So I got myself in a little bit of hot water with the sheriff because we were looking for a really top shelf analyst, and it turns out that we hired a top shelf analyst away from the sheriff's department. So she's here. She works in the same building, and she works on the NIBIN machine. She's now paid by the Department of Justice, however. This is something that, based on the volume of participation, we are ready to expand that footprint, right? So a lot of what we may see if the volume increases the way we would like will probably not revolve around increased investments in hardware, but more likely increased investments in trained analysts that can interpret the information and make sure it's properly shared with the network.
Destiny Venecio with K-Fox. So my question is, how many cases have been solved using this technology so far? Piggybacking off of that, can you point to a case where the system directly helped make an arrest?
Sure. So there are two, the most high profile examples that we use come from the Albuquerque metro area because that's a place where the technology was deployed, has been deployed for a more extended period of time. The two most prominent examples, one was connected to the shootings of elected representatives in the House of Representatives in New Mexico, people who were targeted for political violence. Some of the shell casings that were recovered at the scene were instrumental in help building the case against the defendant, who I think is still being prosecuted in federal court. The other case was a high-profile case in New Mexico where an individual was targeting members of the Muslim community and had targeted individuals that didn't have any obvious connection to one another. But the recovery of the casings in that investigation not only led to an indictment, but actually helped to solidify the fact that they had, identified the right suspect. So those are the two most prominent examples in New Mexico. Unfortunately, we're a little bit behind the curve. If you look at larger metropolitan areas like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, places like that, there are a number of investigations both on the state and federal side where the technology has assisted law enforcement not only in identifying suspects, but in disrupting organizations that are engaged in gun trafficking.
All right, sir, I think we have time for one more.
Journal again. Perhaps a question for the sheriff. The Attorney General today is talking about changes in culture and also what sounds like just changes in workflow from the patrol unit to entering data into this database. How have you talked to your deputies and your detectives about the changes? How has that gone?
Well, I think that's a great question because sometimes it's not about us talking. We can talk. It's the old saying, we can lead them to water, okay? We can buy them books. We can send them to school. But the reality is they have to see it work. They have to see a product. They have to see something come back, that what their efforts led to was a positive. And often in my world, it has to be pretty quick. They have to see a turnaround. So in 60 days, they have really embraced it more than any talking or any direction or any order we could give them. They've seen the benefit. So as the Attorney General says, they now get out of their car and look on the ground for these casings. So I bring that up because that's kind of a police culture in general, is we need to see a response that's pretty quick in order to embrace something, and we have. So you asked about what has led to other crimes locally. We resolved a homicide with a suspect arrest in 4 days. We know that those casings may lead to another 1 or 2 incidents in another city. We have some indication of that based on the suspect's comments himself. So I say that because I think it is too early to really have a feel for how valuable this is, but our people are seeing early on the value, much like we've seen with other technology we've embraced. I also want to add, NIBIN's technology has been around a long time. So, as he says, the bigger agencies in the United States are successfully using this technology constantly. It's just new to our state.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that point. I think it's, I've been a career prosecutor, and the one thing I do know about working with law enforcement is there's no amount of urging from someone in my position to say, you should do this, you should do this. I am accustomed to being in a position where I'm speaking to a room full of skeptical police officers. And to the sheriff's point, the only thing that's going to, I think, get them to think differently about it is not what I have to say. It's what a detective in their department has to say, or someone else who's engaged in an investigation. In other words, if you give law enforcement tools that work, that actually improve their ability to do their job, and then you let them tell that story, right? The first time a detective in this community can tell the story of hitting a dead end on an investigation until a lead was sent from the Crime Gun Intelligence Center, once they start hearing that story and telling that story to each other, and they say, oh, this is a tool that will actually work, then you'll start to see a shift. Until then, it will be up to us to try and encourage folks and share information. And I think once they see the results, once they start getting leads to solving cases and disrupting crime gun networks, I think we're really going to have some momentum behind the program and more adoption. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your participation today.